right, so let's dive into something that I think has always captured our imaginations. Um, Lost pirate treasure. You know, the kind of stories that make you want to grab a shovel and head to a deserted island.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's fascinating how these tales have endured for centuries, blending history and adventure and that tantalizing possibility of untold riches just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. We've got maps, legends, whispers of hidden fortunes. Today we'll be exploring 5 of the most famous lost pirate treasures. But before we get into those specific stories, could you give us a little historical context? I mean, how did this golden age of piracy even come about?
That's a great question. It's not like one day everyone just decided to become a pirate. The Golden Age, roughly spanning from 1650 to 1730, was really a product of its time. European powers were locked in a constant struggle for control of trade routes and colonies, especially in the New World. To protect their interests, they issued letters of marque, essentially licenses that allowed private ships to attack enemy vessels.
So these privateers were basically legal pirates.
Essentially, yes. They were given official permission to capture enemy ships and plunder their cargo, with a share of the spoils going to the crown. But that line between legal privateering and outright piracy often got blurry.
Yeah, I could see how that would happen. I mean, you're out on the open sea, far from any authority. The temptation to go rogue and take whatever you can must have been pretty strong.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what happened in many cases. As European control weakened and the lure of riches grew, piracy exploded. The Caribbean, with its countless islands and bustling trade routes, became a haven for pirates, offering hideouts, supplies, and plenty of targets.
Okay, so we got the backdrop of this golden age, a time ripe for daring adventures and plundered fortunes. Now let's talk about some of those fortunes. First up is Captain William Kidd. Was he really a ruthless pirate or just a privateer who got a bad rap?
Kidd's story is one of those that blurs the lines. He started as a respected privateer, commissioned by the English crown to hunt down pirates in the Indian Ocean. But then things took a turn. He started attacking any ship that looked profitable, regardless of nationality.
Sounds like he got a taste for the pirate life. But where does the treasure come in?
Well, before his execution in 1701, Kidd claimed to have buried a treasure worth £40,000. However, rumors suggested the actual value was much higher, potentially reaching £400,000.
Wow, why the huge discrepancy?
It seems some of the ships Kidd plundered were carrying incredibly valuable cargo, including silks, gold, and jewels, far exceeding the value of what was officially reported. So while only around £10,000 was ever recovered, the possibility of this much larger fortune has kept treasure hunters searching for centuries, especially since Kidd tried to use the location of his treasure as a bargaining chip to save himself from the gallows. Talk about a high-stakes gamble.
That definitely adds to the mystery. So with the potential fortune still out there and the vastness of the ocean, it makes you wonder, is there any realistic hope of finding these lost treasures? Or are they just legends now?
That's the question that keeps us captivated. The ocean holds its secrets close. But as we'll see with some of these other stories, sometimes those secrets do resurface.
Okay, you've piqued my curiosity. Let's move on to our next treasure tale. This one takes us to the Canary Islands and a figure known as Amaro Pargo. He's often described as a Spanish Robin Hood, which seems a bit odd for a pirate, right? How does that even work?
Pargo's story is definitely unique. While he was undoubtedly involved in piracy, he was known for his generosity, especially toward the poor and disadvantaged in his community.
So he was stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, like a real-life Robin Hood. Did the sources mention any specific acts of generosity?
Absolutely. There are accounts of him funding hospitals, providing dowries for poor women, and even intervening to save those sentenced to slavery. This Robin Hood image not only made him a popular figure, but it also fueled the mystery surrounding his hidden wealth.
It's fascinating how his reputation contrasts with the stereotypical image of a ruthless pirate. It almost makes you wonder if his generosity was a deliberate strategy, a way to maintain a certain level of acceptance within his community despite his illegal activities. But let's get to the treasure itself. What clues do we have?
Pargo's will is where things get really interesting. He mentions a chest with a specific carved wooden pattern containing a vast amount of gold, silver, jewels, and pearls. But he claims the details of its contents are outlined in a hidden book, marked with the letter D, the catch. He never revealed the book's location.
A hidden book leading to a hidden treasure chest. That's like a real-life puzzle. And I bet it's driving treasure hunters crazy. So what are we looking at? A vast library somewhere? A secret room in a forgotten mansion? The possibilities seem endless.
That's the allure and the frustration of Amaro Pargo's treasure. The lack of a specific location for this crucial book turns the search into a monumental challenge. It could be anywhere, making it incredibly difficult to even know where to begin.
Talk about a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Speaking of notorious figures, our next treasure tale brings us to the legendary Blackbeard. Now, this guy practically embodies the image of a fearsome pirate. The long black beard, the fiery eyes, the whole 9 yards. What kind of fortune did a pirate like that amass?
Blackbeard, or Edward Teach as he was actually known, was infamous for terrorizing the West Indies and the American colonies. He plundered countless ships, but his recorded wealth was surprisingly low, estimated at around $12.5 million in today's currency.
That seems low for someone with such a fearsome reputation. Where's the rest of the loot? Was he secretly stashing it away somewhere?
That's what makes Blackbeard's treasure so compelling. Before his death in a bloody battle in 1718, he claimed the location of his true treasure was known only to him and the devil. A rather ominous statement, wouldn't you say?
Talk about going out with a bang, claiming the devil knows where your treasure is hidden. That's either a fantastic way to discourage treasure hunters or the ultimate clue. Find the devil, find the treasure.
Perhaps both. And while his flagship Queen Anne's Revenge was discovered in 1996, there was little of significant value found on board. It seems Blackbeard either successfully hid his fortune, or perhaps the legends surrounding his wealth were exaggerated. Either way, after over 300 years, the mystery of Blackbeard's treasure remains unsolved.
Okay, this next one has a different twist. It's not about a pirate burying his loot, but rather pirates stealing an already existing treasure. The Treasures of Lima. It sounds like a story ripped from a movie. Set the scene for us.
Imagine Lima, Peru, in 1820. The city is on the brink of revolution, and its vast treasures, gold, silver, jewels, priceless religious artifacts, are entrusted to a British captain named William Thompson for safekeeping in Mexico.
Sounds straightforward enough, so what went wrong?
Well, instead of fulfilling his duty, Thompson and his crew succumbed to greed. They murdered the guards and priests who accompanied the treasure and sailed off with the entire fortune, estimated at a staggering 160 million mass. Talk about a betrayal of trust.
That's an incredible sum. 12 chests filled with gold coins, silver ingots, jewels, even solid gold crowns. It's like something out of a pirate's wildest dreams. But if they were caught, where's the treasure now?
That's the lingering mystery. Thompson and his crew were captured and executed before they could reveal the treasure's location. So somewhere out there, perhaps on a remote island, buried deep in the jungle, or lost at the bottom of the ocean, lies this incredible fortune, waiting to be rediscovered.
All right, now for the grand finale. The story of the only verified pirate treasure ever found, the Whydah Galley. This is the tale of Black Sam Bellamy, a charismatic and surprisingly democratic pirate captain whose ship, laden with gold coins, sank off Cape Cod in 1717, lost for nearly 300 years. The story of its discovery is almost as captivating as the treasure itself.
In 1984, an expedition led by Barry Clifford finally located the Whydah Galley's wreckage. The divers first found the ship's bell, confirming its identity, and then began uncovering a treasure trove of over 200,000 artifacts.
Wow, 200,000 artifacts. What kind of things did they find?
Everything from cannons and muskets to African jewelry, gold belt buckles, and thousands of silver and gold coins. They even found 6 skeletons, and there's speculation that one of them could belong to Black Sam himself.
That's incredible. A real piece of pirate history brought back to life. So what's the estimated value of all these recovered items?
Well over $100 million. The Whydah Galley treasure proved that these legendary fortunes weren't just myths. They were real, and with patience, persistence, and a little luck, they could be found.
It's amazing to think that one confirmed discovery like this could spark so much hope for those still searching for other lost treasures. Is there a chance that there are more Whydah Galley discoveries waiting to be made?
That's a question worth pondering. The ocean holds countless secrets. As technology advances and our understanding of maritime history deepens, who knows what other lost treasures might be brought to light.
Okay, so we've covered 5 incredible tales of lost pirate treasure. The high-stakes gamble of Captain Kidd, the mystery of Amaro Pargo's hidden book, the chilling words of Blackbeard, the stolen treasures of Lima, and the incredible discovery of the Whydah Galley. They really showcase the enduring power of adventure, mystery, and the pursuit of riches.
And it's not just about the gold and jewels. These stories offer a glimpse into a fascinating period of history, a time when the lines between hero and villain were often blurred, and the lure of the unknown was incredibly powerful. Speaking of that period, we've talked about the individual pirates and their treasures, but I'd love to delve a bit deeper into the golden age of piracy itself. What were the factors that really allowed piracy to flourish?
Hmm, that's a great point. We've got this backdrop of European empires vying for control. But how did that translate into a golden age for pirates? I mean, wouldn't powerful navies have been able to keep them in check?
You would think so, but it wasn't always that simple. The vastness of the oceans, the constant wars between European powers, and the growing value of trade routes, especially in the New World, created opportunities for pirates to thrive. Remember those letters of marque we talked about? They played a huge role.
Right, those licenses that allowed privateers to attack enemy ships?
Mm.
You mentioned earlier that this system could be easily exploited.
Exactly. As European control weakened, some privateers started operating more like independent pirates, attacking any ship they thought was profitable, regardless of its national allegiance. There were even cases of corrupt officials turning a blind eye to these activities, sometimes even profiting from them.
So it was a combination of factors, a power vacuum, a lucrative trade network, and maybe even some shady dealings that helped create this perfect storm for piracy. It really paints a picture of a world teetering on the edge of chaos, where fortunes could be made and lost in a heartbeat.
That's a great way to put it. And within this chaotic world, certain locations became havens for pirates. Ports like Port Royal in Jamaica and Nassau in the Bahamas were notorious for their lawlessness and their tolerance of pirate activity.
So they were like pirate capitals, places to resupply, sell their loot, and indulge in some well-deserved revelry.
Precisely. These ports offered a level of anonymity and freedom that was hard to find elsewhere. They became bustling hubs where pirates could interact, exchange information, and even recruit new crew members.
I'm imagining those classic pirate scenes from movies. Raucous taverns filled with boisterous pirates, tales of daring adventures, and maybe even a few sword fights breaking out.
While Hollywood certainly embellishes things, those depictions aren't entirely off base. Life in these pirate havens was often wild and dangerous, full of intrigue and sudden shifts of fortune.
But let's not forget, life on a pirate ship wasn't all rum and parties. It was a tough, dangerous existence, right?
Absolutely. The reality of life at sea was often harsh and unforgiving. Storms, disease, and battles were constant threats. Food and water could be scarce, and living conditions were cramped and unsanitary.
I guess the romantic image of a pirate standing on deck, the wind in his hair, doesn't quite capture the full picture. So what motivated these men and women to face such hardships? Was it purely the allure of riches?
For some, yes, but for many it was more complex than that. Some were driven by a thirst for adventure, a desire to escape the constraints of society, or even a longing for freedom and self-determination.
That makes sense. I can see how the pirate life, despite its dangers, might have appealed to those seeking to break free from the rigid hierarchies and social norms of the time.
Exactly. And remember, pirate crews were often surprisingly diverse, made up of individuals from various backgrounds and nationalities, all drawn to this life of freedom and opportunity, however risky it might be.
That brings us to a question I've been curious about. We've talked about famous male pirates like Blackbeard and Captain Kidd, but were there women involved in this world too?
Absolutely. The history of women in piracy is often overlooked, but there are some incredible stories of female pirates who defied societal norms and embraced this life of adventure.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me about these pirate queens.
Two of the most famous female pirates were Anne Bonny and Mary Read. They both disguised themselves as men and fought alongside their male counterparts, earning reputations for their skill and ferocity in battle.
Wow, disguising themselves as men to join pirate crews. Talk about breaking boundaries. What drove them to this kind of life?
It seems their motivations were as diverse as those of their male counterparts. A thirst for freedom, a desire to escape poverty or unhappy marriages, or simply a yearning for a life of excitement and adventure.
Their stories really challenge our assumptions about what life was like during this period, and it makes you wonder how many other female pirates might have existed. Their stories lost to time simply because they didn't fit the traditional narrative.
That's a thought-provoking question. It highlights how our understanding of history is constantly evolving, as new evidence comes to light and we begin to look at the past through different lenses.
I imagine those stories, if we could uncover them, would be just as captivating as those of their male counterparts. Speaking of captivating stories, the Whydah Galley discovery really brings this whole world to life. You mentioned they found over 200,000 artifacts. Were there any specific items that stood out? Anything that gave you a real sense of what life was like on board a pirate ship?
Oh, absolutely. The Whydah Galley treasure trove wasn't just about gold and silver. They found everything from navigational tools and carpentry equipment to personal belongings like combs, buttons, and even a tiny silver whistle.
It's like looking through a window into their daily lives. seeing the tools that they used, the objects they carried, the things they valued. It must have been fascinating to piece together those fragments of history.
It was truly remarkable, and what's really interesting is the diversity of the artifacts. They found items from all over the world, reflecting the global reach of trade and the multicultural nature of pirate crews.
That makes sense. I mean, pirates were travelers by nature, interacting with different cultures and societies as they sailed the seas. It must have been a melting pot of ideas, languages, and traditions.
Precisely, and the Whydah Galley treasure gives us tangible evidence of this interconnectedness.
But let's not forget the darker side of this interconnectedness. You mentioned they found African jewelry on board, a reminder of the horrific transatlantic slave trade that was happening during this period.
That's a crucial point. The Whydah Galley, while fascinating for its treasure, also serves as a stark reminder of the brutality and exploitation that were woven into the fabric of this era. It's important to acknowledge that while we're fascinated by the adventure and romance of piracy, it was also a period marked by violence, greed, and the suffering of countless individuals.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that history is never black and white. It's full of contradictions, complexities, and uncomfortable truths that we need to confront if we want to truly understand the past.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that these stories, while thrilling, are ultimately about real people and real events. And they raise an important question. Beyond the historical value, is there still a realistic chance of finding these other lost treasures? I mean, we've got one confirmed discovery with the Whydah Galley, but the ocean is vast and centuries have passed.
It's certainly a daunting task, but not entirely impossible. Remember, technology is constantly evolving. We have better sonar, more advanced diving equipment, and a deeper understanding of oceanography and historical records. So what you're saying is, those treasure maps and legends might not be as far-fetched as they seem. There's a real possibility that some of these lost fortunes are still out there, just waiting for the right tools and the right people to uncover them.
Exactly. And it's not just about the technology. Sometimes it's about connecting seemingly unrelated historical clues, re-examining old documents, or even just being in the right place at the right time.
It makes you wonder if there are teams of treasure hunters out there right now, scouring the globe, following those faint trails of evidence, hoping to strike it rich. It sounds like something straight out of an adventure novel.
There are definitely individuals and organizations dedicated to the search for lost treasures. Some are motivated by the historical significance, while others are drawn to the potential financial rewards. And every now and then we hear about a new discovery, reminding us that these stories are still being written.
It's fascinating to think that we're still unearthing pieces of the past, centuries later. But I'm curious, if you were to embark on your own treasure hunt, which of these lost fortunes would you go after?
That's a tough one. They each have their own unique allure, but I think I'd be most drawn to the Treasures of Lima. The sheer scale of that lost fortune, those 12 chests overflowing with gold, silver, and jewels, is simply mind-boggling.
Yeah, I can see why that one would stand out. Imagine finding those chests, untouched for centuries. A glimpse into the opulence and grandeur of a bygone era. It'd be like stepping back in time.
Oh.
But let's say you did find one of these treasures. What happens next? Is it finders keepers?
That's where things get complicated. There are laws and international treaties governing the discovery and ownership of historical artifacts and treasures. It often depends on where the treasure is found, who found it, and the historical and cultural significance of the items.
So it's not as simple as digging up a chest of gold and sailing off into the sunset.
Not quite. There are often legal battles, ownership disputes, and ethical considerations to navigate.
I guess that's the part of the story that Hollywood tends to leave out. It's not just about the thrill of the hunt. It's about the responsibility that comes with uncovering these pieces of the past.
Precisely. And it's about recognizing that these treasures, beyond their monetary value, hold immense historical and cultural significance. They can teach us about past civilizations, trade routes, and even the lives of ordinary people who lived centuries ago.
So in a way, we're all treasure hunters, aren't we? Maybe not in the literal sense of digging up chests of gold, but in our quest to uncover knowledge, understand the past, and connect with something larger than ourselves.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And perhaps that's the true treasure, the realization that the pursuit of knowledge and understanding is an adventure in itself, full of unexpected discoveries and enriching experiences.
Well said. And who knows, maybe some of you listening are feeling inspired to embark on your own treasure hunt, whether it's researching your family history, exploring a new hobby, or simply diving deeper into a subject that piques your curiosity.
The world is full of hidden treasures just waiting to be discovered, and sometimes the most rewarding treasures aren't material possessions, but the knowledge and experiences that enrich our lives and broaden our perspectives.
Absolutely. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep that sense of wonder alive. You never know what you might uncover.
Happy hunting, everyone!